Ready when you are. Hello, hello.
Saludos amigos, los invitamos a escuchar la mesa redonda de Roundtable, donde discutimos los temas del día, hablando de política, educación y otros temas locales, regionales y mundiales. Por USA la Radio.
Saludos amigos oyentes de USA la Radio. Están escuchando la mesa redonda de Roundtable desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal. From the city of brotherly love, les habla Fernando Méndez, Dani Ramos controlando la máquina digital y les traemos noticias, comentario local, regional y nacional, por supuesto, y noticias, por lo menos los titulares internacionales. Y para empezar por ese lado, pues la crisis del virus COVID-19 se ha agravado en Europa, en Francia y en Italia, en Inglaterra. Están echando en reverso, luego de haber relajado un poco las restricciones, están echando reverso porque inmediatamente empezó un nuevo crecimiento del virus COVID-19. En Estados Unidos, pues ahora, ¿cómo decir esto? La lucha que el presidente Biden confronta en este momento es contra el virus y contra la oposición política de los republicanos. No todos, pero una manada de republicanos que no quieren colaborar con el presidente, que están buscando poner obstáculos para todo. Por supuesto, ellos están votando. No están votando como debía votar para beneficio del pueblo, están votando para su partido, tratando de hacer todo lo posible por echar marcha atrás a los derechos al voto y también echar marcha atrás en cuanto a los avances del COVID. Aunque no lo crea usted, señor oyente, están echando marcha atrás, quieren como dicen en francés, ralentir el proceso, quieren hacerlo más lento. Así que por todos lados, esto es un desafío para este nuevo presidente. Luego hablaremos de otros desafíos internacionales con respecto a China, Rusia, Irán, que debían o eran o siempre han sido por mucho tiempo los enemigos tradicionales de esta democracia, porque ahora está otra vez, pues ha cambiado. Esa relación ha cambiado ahora, el modo como Rusia y China deben lidiar con el nuevo líder de los Estados Unidos, quien tiene la sólida compañía de Europa. Entonces ahí hay mucho campo para discutir sobre lo que está sucediendo políticamente con respecto a este virus que todavía nos mantiene agarrados. Sin embargo, pues hay buenas noticias en cuanto al virus, en cuanto a las vacunas para combatir el virus. En Filadelfia, pues creo que trabajando en conjunto con el Estado y el gobierno federal, en Filadelfia se está tratando de ampliar los servicios, de darle más oportunidad a gente que vive en ciertos zip codes, ciertos códigos postales para que tengan acceso a la vacuna sin ninguna objeción. No tienen necesidad de decir que los mandó un doctor, que han visto al médico, que tienen una cita. Nada, solamente tienen que presentar, tal vez en algunos sitios, no sé si el sitio de convenciones, Pennsylvania Convention Center es uno de ellos, pero ahí FEMA y la ciudad de Filadelfia y el estado están dedicados a ofrecerle la vacuna a cualquier individuo que la desee. Así que si usted vive en uno de esos códigos en donde no hay un servicio de vacunas, donde no tiene acceso a un hospital, en donde ha tenido problemas inscribiéndose, averiguando cómo y cuándo y dónde vacunarse, esta es una oportunidad única de ir a un centro en donde usted simplemente se presenta y se puede vacunar. Pero esto no ocurre sin obstáculos, ¿no? Por supuesto, para muchos ciudadanos es difícil transportarse al centro de Filadelfia. Eso no es ni fácil ni barato para mucha gente que vive en sitios alejados del centro. Pero ahí está la oportunidad. Si usted puede, de algún modo, llegar al centro de convenciones, usted necesita la vacuna, ahí está su oportunidad. Este ha sido un servicio de Usa la Radio. Están en estos 22 códigos postales, zip codes, estos 22, donde hay comunidades que son, en este momento, pueden vacunarse 1A y 1B. A mí se me hace que no importa qué grupo sea, si usted de algún modo califica para una vacuna, usted puede presentarse a uno de estos centros y vacunarse. El objetivo aquí de parte del gobierno es evitar que la gente continúe aislada, sin servicios, sin acceso a la vacuna. Así que de cualquier modo usted puede acercarse, ahí está su oportunidad. So Philadelphia is trying to expand access to vaccines. 22 zip codes uh, were underserved communities eligible for the 1A, 1B vaccines can get a vaccine today in the convention center, Pennsylvania Convention Center in Philadelphia. It even made the national news. Y hay Marines y NGOs que they are helping, and they were vaccinating 500 people in 1 hour and helping 6,000 vaccines in one day. 500 personas por hora y 6,000 vacunas en un día, allí en el centro de convenciones. And the operation is supposed to take place until Monday. But now they're announcing that they may extend it beyond Monday. And I suppose it has to do with inventory. They have vaccines available. They will continue to operate. I'm certain of that. In the meantime, 17 states, and the District of Columbia see an increase in COVID cases over the last 2 weeks. Why? Well, I'll tell you one big reason. Many colleges that granted a Easter vacation, the party goers in Florida, who were, you can be seen in videos, did not wear masks and were celebrating their ability to get together, I suppose, and to be able to go to the Sunshine State. And they are the ones, many of whom were arrested, by the way, they are the ones who go back to their locations, their homes, and spread the virus. because the greatest number of people resisting the vaccine, by the way, are between the ages of 19 and 39, I believe. Anyway, it's a young group of people who are resisting the vaccine. There are people of all ages who don't want to be vaccinated, but the largest group. And also they are naturally the largest group spreading the virus to different parts of the country. So, but in our tri-county area, there are good things happening and there are bad things happening. The variants are here. The variants, the UK variant, the South African variant, the Brazilian, there are any number of variants. Some of them are not dangerous. Some of them are just naturally transformed forms of COVID that are harmless, but many of them are dangerous. And the UK virus, the UK version and the Brazilian version are dangerous, and they apparently they have both shown up in the United States. So, Dr. Fauci said there are many thousands of different versions or variants of COVID circulating. Many of them are harmless and will disappear quickly, like by magic, like Mr. Trump said. So, what else to say about COVID, except for the fact that, as Dr. Fauci says, be patient. So do not slam the ball before the end zone. Before you get to the end zone, don't celebrate. And we are close to that. What he's suggesting is that we should be patient. And we should think about where we were just not long ago. We were in a situation in which we had no hope. We couldn't see any way the vaccines will come to us. We had to deal with a government that was basically indifferent to this plight. And now we have somebody. We have a president who is concerned. I want to remind you of one particular scene in which Trump mocked Biden for wearing a mask. And he said he has the biggest mask I have ever seen, which was, in that context, speaking to his people, anti-vaccine people. It was funny, but it's not funny. So do not mock the president. And then on the other side of a brief pause, we have commentary on a confrontation between Rand Paul and Fauci. Amigos oyentes de USA la Media, les habla Fernando Méndez desde la Mesa Redonda. No se vayan, regresamos en un momento con Dani Ramos y la máquina digital.
Saludos amigos, los invitamos a escuchar La Mesa Redonda, The Roundtable, donde discutimos los temas del día, hablando de política, educación y otros temas, locales, regionales y mundiales, por USA la Radio.
Señores oyentes de USA la Media, estamos aquí de nuevo en su programa La Mesa Redonda de Roundtable desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal. Les habla Fernando Méndez, Dani Ramos controlando la máquina digital. Y estamos haciendo comentarios sobre el COVID y los enfrentamientos que han tenido éxito en cuanto a las ciencias, en cuanto al proceso de vacunar a la gente, en cuanto a informar, a darnos un sentido de confianza en que el gobierno ha sido efectivo. Así que estamos hoy 58 días desde que prometió el señor Biden que haría, que vacunaría a 100 millones en 100 días, y usted diga 58 y ya hoy se alcanzan los 100 millones de vacunas. Promesa cumplida y abundantemente cumplida. Entonces, vamos a ver qué pasa, porque todavía hay problemas con... No, ahora los problemas son primero políticos, luego hablaremos de eso, y problemas con gente que no quiere vacunarse. Entonces, para alcanzar esto, lo que llaman herd immunity, la inmunidad de un rebaño, que quiere decir que la mayoría de nosotros uh, está vacunada o ha contraído el virus y está protegida. En todo caso, eso se requiere como un 70-75% de la población en esas condiciones, pero se hace difícil cuando hay tanta gente que resiste la vacuna. Entonces, algunos profesionales, médicos, políticos, están dedicados a una tarea, que es proveer la información correcta. Y entonces han formado algunos grupos en donde se trata de educar a la gente, porque esto es lo que han oído de mucha gente, Trumpers, gente que apoya al expresidente Trump. Dicen que ellos no quieren que los que los traten mal, que los traten como mal informados, como ignorantes. Ellos quieren saber, quieren tener explicaciones sobre la vacuna, no simplemente el lavado de cerebro que había hecho el mago de Mar-a-Lago. Entonces, bueno, de eso se trata el asunto, de informar. Porque en ese momento hay gente todavía que tendría que vacunarse y no lo ha hecho, gente que entre las edades 16 y 64 que que se consideran de alto riesgo, porque tienen asma, porque tienen cáncer, por problemas cardiovasculares, por enfermedades de los riñones, etcétera. Entonces, esta gente está en riesgo y si encima de eso pues no quieren vacunarse, se les agrava la situación. So these people ages 16 to 64 with the following high risk conditions: asthma, cancer, cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, cystic fibrosis, Down syndrome, heart conditions of any sort, hypertension, high blood pressure, immunocompromised state of any form, liver disease, neurological conditions. All these people are more in jeopardy than the average person. And many, there are millions of people affected with one or more of those conditions, obesity being one of them that creates more danger for people. So that's one reason the government is in a hurry to make the vaccines more and more available. And at this point, even though there are problems with AstraZeneca, Mr. Biden has promised Canada and Mexico to receive some of the vaccines. The ones that have been successful for the most part, with more than 95% success for us, Pfizer and Moderna, and now we have Johnson & Johnson with only one application, one shot. So that would help tremendously with the vaccines. That is the whole objective. The goal for this country is to vaccinate as many as possible, as many who want to be vaccinated as possible, and to educate the rest who are resisting the vaccine for religious objections because they believe in Mr. Trump, and they think that he told them the truth, which he didn't, and so they're putting their lives at risk. That's all I would say for now. So, in that context, political context, Um, Pennsylvania's Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, gave an extensive interview on MSNBC. And in the context of the investigation into the November election, into the events of January 6th. So the investigators find no evidence that there was ballot fraud, as cited by Trump, Giuliani, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, and other Republicans like Jim Jordan and Cunan, Senator Johnson, that there was fraud in the election. There's no ballot fraud. And there's a report from the government, from the investigations that they have carried out, now that real investigations can take place. But the Trump allies were calling on overturning the government, overturning the election, on canceling our vote on November 3rd, 2020, based on a big lie, false information, that there was fraud. And they used one particular case, even in a letter addressed to the Justice Department. Senator Lindsey Graham included in that letter one, at the time, known complaint that in Pennsylvania, in Erie, a postal worker had overheard his superiors or his co-workers speaking about tampering with the ballot boxes. And that was used by Trump, by Giuliani, by Trump Jr., by Jim Jordan, by Senator Johnson, by all the Trump supporters, all the many lawsuits around the country use that information to suggest that this was happening around the country. And based on one individual who complained, an individual who testified, falsely testified, that there was tampering. And that was in Pennsylvania. Attorney General Bill Barr authorized an investigation by the Justice Department based on information given by that individual. And now we find out that this individual, whose name is Hopkins, is his last name, that this individual gave false testimony. And his name is Richard Hopkins. And now he did two things. First, pay attention to this, because this is how that whole slew of lawsuits around the country, not only Pennsylvania, but it was used in Georgia, in Arizona, in Michigan. It has been used in 48 states to question the validity of the November 3rd election. Based on one individual report, this Richard Hopkins, that's his name, a postal worker from Pennsylvania, from Erie, who testified that he overheard his superiors speaking about the ballot boxes, and that mere allegation was used as the foundation, the basis to challenge the election around the country. And then what did he do? He recanted it in an interview, 2-hour interview with investigators. He recanted the allegation. He said that maybe he didn't hear right. He was in a crowded facility, post office, and that maybe he misheard. Anyway, he could not confirm under oath to investigators that he actually heard. And then, but he was eager to spread the rumor. So this is what he did. So he gives that testimony under oath to the investigators. And then he goes on social media, Twitter or one of those, and says that he did not, that he never retracted the information that he gave, that he has not taken back his statement that there was fraud at the post office. And then, subsequent to that, he's been forced again because now he's legally liable. He could go to prison for that. And the Attorney General spoke about that. He no longer has supporters at the Justice Department who would not investigate his false statements. So there is no Bill Barr over there doing Trump's bidding. So this Richard Hopkins, do not forget that name, because this guy caused a lot of trouble, not only in Pennsylvania, but across the country. And his statements have been used now by many states. I think there's like 36 states or more that are enacting drastic changes to election law based on fraud, the accusations of fraud stemming from one individual's statement. So this lie could have tremendous repercussions in how we vote in states like Georgia and Arizona and Wisconsin and Michigan, where the foundations for the challenge against the results of the election of November 3rd, 2020, that gave the victory to Joe Biden. The reason for that, one of the salient points based on this individual, Richard Hopkins, who gave false witness, and he started this ball running. That's what happened. Think about that. One lie. What is it that they say, that one lie can go around the world twice before the truth catches up with it? Well, this is a clear example of how one lie by one unethical individual can cause tremendous harm. Think of the thousands of lives that can be affected by that because they will not be able to vote on Sundays. Remember that the Republicans are determined to use all this misinformation about corruption of the ballot box. They are ready at this point to enact drastic laws to change the way we vote. No vote on Sunday, no mail-in vote. All these obstacles in the way of the black and brown population so that we cannot vote against Republicans. That's what they are afraid of. See what happened when we were all allowed to vote. Republicans lost. They lost the White House. They lost the Senate. They lost the House. Amigos oyentes de USA la Media, estamos aquí en la Mesa Redonda. Les habla Fernando Méndez, Dani Ramos controlando la máquina digital. No se vayan, regresamos en un momento con más comentarios.
Saludos amigos, los invitamos a escuchar la Mesa Redonda de Roundtable, donde discutimos los temas del día, hablando de política, educación y otros temas, locales, regionales y mundiales, por USA la Radio.
Señores oyentes de USA la Media, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Roundtable desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal. From the city of brotherly love. Les habla Fernando Méndez, Dani Ramos controlando la máquina digital. Y estamos hablando del fraude electoral, las acusaciones de fraude que empezaron con un individuo de la oficina de correo, de la oficina postal en Pensilvania, un tal Richard Hopkins, who created havoc, quien creó muchísimos problemas no solamente en Pensilvania, sino a través del país, porque El pueblo ha perdido la fe en el sistema electoral y todo esto basado en una mentira. No solamente que ha socavado la fe en el voto, pero que ha causado miles y millones de pesos, de dólares, gastados en las cortes, en juicios sin fundamento. Recuerden que a través del país los secuaces de Donald Trump entablaron juicio por todas partes, perdieron más de 60 juicios, ganaron un juicio de los más de 60, creo que eran 78, 79 casos en que habían entablado juicio en las cortes para cuestionar el voto. Estos individuos perdieron en todas partes, ganaron en una parte, ganaron solamente, creo que fue en Pensilvania, creo que fue acceso o estar más cerca de las mesas donde se estaban contando los votos. Ese fue el único caso que ganaron. El resto lo perdieron. Por una simple razón, no tenían prueba legal, no podían acercarse a una corte, no podían entrar a una corte y allí mismo decir mentiras, arriesgando sus carreras, arriesgando su licencia como abogados. Entonces, estos individuos podían hacer lo que quisieran hacer por fuera, como lo hizo Giuliani por todas partes, en la televisión, en la radio, en estas ruedas de prensa que organizó a través del país, él mismo, en hoteles, en los lobbies de hoteles, donde parecía que él estaba en una corte, pero él nunca llegó, nunca se aproximó a una corte con la mentira de que el voto era fraude. Estos individuos causaron mucho daño a nuestro sistema político, causado todo el daño por una mentira, la mentira de Richard Hopkins. As I said before, the tremendous damage that Richard Hopkins, with his big lie about the post office, the tremendous damage that it caused to our system, where people's faith in voting was undermined, and where it was obviously a great tool for Giuliani and his compinches to go to court. Giuliani didn't go to court. I mean, but they went to court. They challenged in many courts. They filed lawsuits, but nobody was able to win anything. Why? They could not justify. They could not justify the challenge. They had no foundation. They had no proof of anything. They had one sentence from an individual in Pennsylvania at the post office, Richard Hopkins, who said that the vote was fraudulent because he overheard a conversation in his post office about voting irregularities. And as I said before, he retracted. Él retractó todas estas acusaciones que hizo con respecto al voto fraudulento en la oficina postal de Erie, Pensilvania. Pero muy tarde, ¿no? Lo retractó muy tarde, ya había hecho el daño. As I said before, all this was used as a basis for Giuliani to launch a campaign to undermine the faith in the vote. It was used by the Justice Department under Bill Barr. It was used by Donald Trump to continue saying that there was fraud in the election and that he won. He won the election. That is the biggest lie of all. That's the tremendous damage that was caused to our system of justice. And this, I mentioned an interview with Josh Shapiro, the Attorney General of Pennsylvania. And what he is advocating now is that these individuals who committed the fraud, forget about this pansy, Richard Hopkins, the lawyers who went around the country to challenge the election based on this fraudulent allegation, the Justice Department under Bill Barr that launched an investigation, mostly based on that. Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, Jim Jordan, Kevin McCarthy, all these people who encouraged the big lie that Trump won the election based on one or two fraudulent allegations. Well, Richard Hopkins was not alone. Individuals around the country, obviously. But what the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, is saying that these individuals should not go away scot-free, that these are lawyers who perpetrated the big lie and they should not get away with it without punishment, at least censure, at least a challenge to their ability to practice law. So we have been carefully looking at lawyers who lied in court. So obviously, some of these lawyers who presented the case of Donald Trump were lying. Now, were they aware that this was based on a big lie from Richard Hopkins? Maybe not. Would that be an excuse? Would it be possible for a lawyer to appear in court based on nothing but a rumor, based on nothing, having no personal proof of fraud, just based on hearsay, take that to court and run with it? How professional is that for any lawyer? How can an attorney have a license to represent a bunch of lies? What Shapiro is saying, you cannot use our court system to do that, including the Texas Attorney General, who worked in coordination with the White House. The Texas Attorney General worked in coordination with the White House to get attorneys general, as if the plural form of attorney general is attorneys general, who the Texas AG, he convinced attorneys general in other states to join him in this fraudulent pursuit of what they see as the truth, that Donald Trump lost the election because of fraud. One little lie in Erie, Pennsylvania became the big lie for the Trump administration. So look, follow the thread, because this is one of the features, the facets that caused me to admire the way Rachel Maddow sort of dissects issues and follows the thread, is precisely that, her ability to cut through all the lies and the smoke screen and get to the core of the issue. So if we start with the fact that Richard Hopkins lied, he had no proof, but he lied, then the GOP supported the lie because Lindsey Graham loved to hear that. And he wrote a letter to the Justice Department asking for an investigation into the fraud in Pennsylvania, which extended to other states. And then Bill Barr, supposedly representing the people, but actually acting as Trump's lawyer, Bill Barr ordered an investigation by the Justice Department. Then Trump used all that information, misinformation, false statements in the campaign, throughout the campaign. Then they challenged the November 3rd vote throughout the country. As we have said before, dozens and dozens of investigations and lawsuits, because all based on Richard Hopkins' lie. Then ultimately, that leads Trump to November 6th in Washington, standing in front of his people, the QAnon, the oath takers, the Proud Boys, and thousands of other supporters, urging them to go to the Capitol where the election was being certified by Congress, to go to the Capitol and arrest congressmen and senators who were there, to kill Nancy Pelosi, because he didn't say that, but the rioters did, to hang Mike Pence because he was considered a traitor to Trump because he did not support Trump, and he was there presiding over the count. So follow the story all the way from Richard Hopkins, the GOP, to Lindsey Graham, to the Justice Department, where Bill Barr authorizes the investigation, to the hundreds of lawyers around the country who based their lawsuits on that lie from Richard Hopkins, to Donald Trump using that in his campaign, in his desire to overturn the election on January 6th, asking his people to march to the Capitol. And I will be there with you, he said. And he lied one more time. And he didn't go anywhere near the Capitol that day. He went to the White House, apparently, from what we have heard from reports, to watch with glee as his people sacked the capital of the United States for the first time since 1812. So, and that was okay. So that's why I say follow. Sometimes you say follow the money. No, there might be money in this too, because the investigators are unearthing some interesting information about the people who participated in the riot, having been supporters of not only the president, but of people very close to the president. So we're going to find out more information about this, because there is an individual involved in this who might have given money or given intelligence or given support or given instructions to the people who were sort of the leaders of the march, who can be seen with earphones. Now the FBI has 10 faces, and this is the minimum. They probably have 300, but they have 10 faces that they are publishing of individuals throughout the country who were at the Capitol involved in the riot, and who can be clearly identified. Their faces, and they don't know their names, but they will have either relatives or friends or neighbors, co-workers who can identify them because their faces are very clear. If I had seen one of those individuals, I would surely be able to identify them. So, well, that's where we are right now. We are trying to identify the people who committed this crime. Señores oyentes de Usa la Media, están escuchando La Mesa Redonda. Les habla Fernando Méndez. Dani Ramos controlando la máquina digital. Regresamos en un momento.
Saludos amigos, los invitamos a escuchar La Mesa Redonda, The Roundtable, donde discutimos los temas del día, hablando de política, educación y otros temas, locales, regionales y mundiales, por Usa la Radio.
Señores oyentes de Usa la Media, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Roundtable, desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal. Les habla Fernando Méndez. Dani Ramos controlando la máquina digital. So we have news from city and state, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. The state health department announced it will reduce COVID-19 vaccine priorities by 2/3, from 780 to 234, with a new strategy favoring big hospitals and medical centers over smaller providers. Okay, so good news for those who are affected in a positive way bad news for people who might lose inventory because the state has decided to do something different. Anyway, but overall, with the vaccines and the availability and people eligible and that, the news in general are pretty good. U.S. Senator Pat Toomey on Thursday blocked legislation that would prevent private debt collectors from being able to seize stimulus checks sent out under the latest COVID relief bill. That to me, voting against legislation that would impede debt collectors from seizing the money. That's I don't know what to think about that. I think that people who need the money should get the money. The debt collectors coming from big agencies, from the gas company, from the electric company, from a bank, from a healthcare provider. That's where the trouble comes. Who is trying to collect debts from people who have no money, who lost everything because of COVID? So in that case, to me, you're wrong. The debt collectors should not be allowed to just go in and get people's money. Anyway, former State Health Department Secretary Rachel Levine is facing new questions about missing nursing home death data from GOP lawmakers as her nomination to serve as President Biden's Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services advances. Pennsylvania Supreme Court candidates kicked off the race for a single open seat at a virtual forum. It's WHYY reporting. 4 elections are now to be held on the day of the May 18th primary to fill the seats of Representatives Jeff Pyle, Republican Armstrong, who retired due to health issues, the late State Representative Mike Reese, Republican of Westmoreland, the late State Senator Dave Arnold, Republican from Lebanon, and State Senator John Blake, Democrat from Lackawanna. So he's quitting to take a job, working for U.S. Representative Matt Cartwright. So some voters in York County are reportedly suspicious of letters from the election board making them asking them to renew their mail-in ballot registration. And that deserves some sort of investigation. Maybe Attorney General Shapiro would look into this. Some voters in York County are suspicious of letters from the election board asking them to renew their mail-in ballot registration. That's a report from Fox in Harrisburg. What is that about? I would like to have somebody who understands the effect of that. Maybe there is a legitimate explanation. But in view of the shenanigans that Republicans are pulling around the country, I don't know. I would be suspicious. The House State Government Committee heard testimony on Thursday from election law experts as it continues to examine election laws and mail-in ballots. Let's remember there are all these challenges, all these decisions to challenge this or that in relation to the vote, and in relation to mail-in ballots and all that. Suspicions that aroused that the post office was tampering with our votes. All that is based on false information from one individual in the post office in Erie, Pennsylvania, Richard Hopkins. That I hope he goes to jail. That is criminal act. It is his fault. that in many parts of the country, his statement is being used to do away with mail-in votes. That's unbelievable that would happen because of one individual. Challenging the process of mail-in ballots could become more difficult in coming elections. So, not sure what that report from the inquiry is in relation to, but it's all linked to how the Postal Service is under investigation. The focus of many investigations is how the Postal Service operates. We know that the Postal Service has been losing money for years because of all the different agencies that are now able to offer deliveries, to offer services that only the post office used to offer, delivering packages and all that. And so now they don't even have the credibility afforded to them by having our votes arrive by mail. Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney has few solutions to offer to combat the city's surging homicidal rate. Yeah, well, Josh Shapiro was also questioning about that, and at this point, nobody has clear solutions. All the politicians are sort of pointing the finger to other places. The mayor can say that this is the result of poverty, of COVID, of unemployment, of poverty, and other things are probably right. It's a really bad combination of all those elements at this time in the life of our city, to have COVID and unemployment and all this happen at the same time. And that's what has created an ambient in which crime of all sorts increases. From the editorial pages, the Tribune Review criticizes proposal by State Representative Barry Javotz from Berks to bring back a vehicle registration expiration stickers to help fund the State Department of Transportation. Apologies. So as we approach a final solution to the problem of COVID, because obviously by achieving such high rate of vaccination, President Biden is not only keeping his word, I think he is inspiring trust in his decisions, and now we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. If we did 100 million vaccines in 58 days, we're certainly within reach of his final promise of having everybody, all vaccines available to everybody by July 4th. Well, señores oyentes de USA la Media, se despide Fernando Méndez, Dani Ramos controlando la máquina digital. Los esperamos en la mesa redonda. Hasta la próxima.
Saludos amigos, los invitamos a escuchar la mesa redonda de Roundtable, donde discutimos los temas del día, hablando de política, educación y otros temas, locales, regionales y mundiales, por USA la Radio.